of the 36, comma. Furthermore, this meeting is open to accredited journalists, but I will strongly ask the journalists to remain as discreet as possible to allow the good conduct of business and the proceeding of our meeting. Secondly, please note that interpretation of our plenary sessions will be available in English, French, as well as in Russian, kindly provided by the Russian authorities. Please also note that thanks to the generosity of Qatar, interpretation will also be available in Arabic and Spanish. I therefore invite the Russian, Spanish and Arabic language speakers to choose in which working language, English or French, they would like to see their interventions being reflected in the summary records of the session. Your choice should be indicated orally at the time of your first intervention. It should also be transmitted in writing to the Secretariat before the end of our working session this morning. Dear colleagues, it is now time for us to consider the participation of observers as presented in document WHC 12/36.com/2. For your information, this is a bilingual document. I have to ask you if you agree to the presence of these observers throughout the session. I see no objection. Agreed. Thank you. May I take it that the participation of observers is agreed? So, item 2 of the agenda is closed. We move on to the item 3 of our agenda. Timetable of our session. Items 3A and 3B. I would like to invite Mr. Kishore Rao, Director of the World Heritage Center, to present the agenda and timetable items for the session as contained in document WHC 12/36.com/3A and WHC 12/36.com/3B. These documents should be read in conjunction with document WHC 12/36.com/inf.3A, which is the provisional list of documents of the 36th session of the World Heritage Committee. Mr. Rao, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning, everybody. Madam Chair has already outlined the documents that we will be considering under this item. This is documents 3A, 3B, and Inf 3A. The provisional agenda for the session was already adopted at the end of the last session, 35COM. So that has not undergone any change, and it is for your consideration and adoption. The list of documents is in the document 36COM Inf 3A and lists all the working documents that have either already been circulated for your consideration or some of them will be generated during the session here. So you have a list of almost 53 documents that will be produced as a result of this session, falling under 20 different agenda items. So that is in regard to the provisional agenda and the list of documents which are for your consideration. Madam Chair, as regards the provisional timetable, this is contained in document 36COM/3B and outlines our working timetable. For today, there was no Bureau meeting, and I apologize for any miscommunication that may have happened from the part of the Secretariat to committee members and Bureau members that there would be a Bureau meeting today, but I'm sorry to say that there was not a schedule for a Bureau meeting today. So the Bureau meeting will start tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Today, Madam Chair, we will be looking at various reports from the Secretariat, a report from the advisory bodies, reports from the Category 2 centers, and reports on thematic programs. That is more or less the agenda for today. We hope to start the consideration of the State of Conservation reports tomorrow, going until Thursday, the full day of Thursday. As you all know, the State of Conservation reports for consideration are only 41, and if we happen to save any time in the consideration of the State of Conservation reports, Madam Chair will adjust the timetable accordingly and take up other items for consideration. Then we have nominations to the World Heritage List, starting on Friday, the 29th of June, and ending in the forenoon session of the 1st of July. This is a period that we would like to keep discreet, and we will not change the timetable there because there are several delegations which will be arriving specifically for consideration of the nominations. The rest of the agenda proceeds until Wednesday, 4th of July, with considerations of various other items on the agenda. And the 5th of July has been left free for the Secretariat and the advisory bodies to prepare the report of decisions. And that will be a day when the host country has organized excursions for the delegations. And then we will be adopting the report of decisions on 6th of July in the afternoon. As was noted yesterday, there is no evening session foreseen on any of these days of the session because this was a decision that was taken by the committee at its last session. So all the sessions will start at 10 o'clock in the morning sharp and at 3 in the afternoon and conclude by 7 o'clock in the evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao, for your presentation. Do any members of the committee wish to make observations and suggestions regarding the provisional agenda and timetable? I see none. So, approved. At this very initial stage, and before closing the examination of these items, please allow me to make some general announcement with the aim to guide our work and our discussion throughout the session. I would like to inform all of you, dear colleagues, that due to the number of items of our agenda and the time constraints, I will apply Rule 22 of the Rules of Procedure, which limits the time allowed to each speaker. Time for interventions will be limited to 3 minutes for committee members and 2 minutes for observers. In this regard, please note that a sound system to gauge interventions is in place, and I am, as chairperson, also empowered to interrupt any speaker exceeding the recommended time limit. Concerning the intervention of observers from civil society and NGOs, I would like to request them, if they wish to take the floor on the same topic, to have consultation among them in order to prepare and deliver one single intervention. In order to save time as much as possible, I would appeal to you, dear colleagues, not to repeat what other delegations have said. I would also request the official statement declaration be transmitted to the Secretariat in writing as soon as they have been delivered in order to integrate them in the summary records of the session. Then I would like to ask you to switch off your mobile phones or to put them in the silent mode so as not to interrupt the debates. Furthermore, I would be grateful if we could start on time every morning at 10 a.m. sharp and at 3 a.m. PM, excuse me. But here it's possible to start at 3 a.m. easily, too. I would also be very grateful if you could not hold discussions outside the main conference room, but not during the debates. Finally, please note that coffee and tea will be available outside the conference room during all the day. Last but not least, I also wish to remind you all that all amendments to draft decisions have to be transmitted beforehand to the reporter, Madame Beatriz Hernandez, in writing, using the blue form and, when possible, in an electronic version at the following mail address. Is it possible to show this address on
The screen.
on the screen? WH
Yeah, they will put it up.
Rapporteur, UNESCO.org. But it seems to me in blue paper it is done, this mail address, so as to also facilitate and speed up the integration of the text in the relevant draft decisions at hand for your consideration. This form is available in the room in both French and English, and the email address I just mentioned is written on it. Please ensure that your amendments are provided sufficiently in advance, considering that the Secretariat needs time to have them translated before they can be distributed. I would encourage you, whenever possible, to submit the amendments in both language, English and French, to speed up the process, especially for last-minute amendments. Furthermore, the Secretariat will consult each committee member delegation to get an email address to which the electronic version of the blue form can be sent for easy use. I thank you in advance for your cooperation and understanding in this regard. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we move on to other items. I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Ali Aoud Sidi, reporter of the 35th session of the World Heritage Committee.
He's okay.
He is here?
Yes, he's sitting there.
On the other side.
Okay. To present his report of the session, which took place from 19 to 29 June 2011 in UNESCO headquarters in Paris. Mr. Aoud Sidi's report will highlight the main issues discussed and the decisions adopted during the session. Mr. Sidi, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, chers délégués, chers collègues, c'est avec un réel plaisir que j'ai eu le privilège de travailler avec vous tout au long de la 35e session tenue du 19 au 29 juin 2011 à Paris, et au cours de laquelle de nombreux amendements ont été formulés puis soumis de la part des membres du comité. Madame la Présidente, ma tâche a été facilitée grâce à un secrétariat professionnel, une équipe dynamique, soudée et disponible, toujours prête à assumer les tâches, en particulier la diligence dans le traitement des décisions et leur intégration au sein des projets de décision préparés à l'avance. En termes de méthodologie, nous avions travaillé sur des amendements rédigés qui nous ont été envoyés soit par version électronique ou par écrit sur des formulaires bleus d'amendements préconçus. Ceux-ci ont ensuite été intégrés soit à l'avance ou dans certains cas à la suite des interventions des membres du comité. Dans certains cas, Madame la Présidente, de petits groupes de travail ont soumis une décision consolidée et consensuelle suite à votre demande. Par ailleurs, j'ai également travaillé avec le secrétariat pour m'assurer que toutes les modifications autorisées au cours des débats avaient été dûment prises en compte et intégrées aux décisions finales. En plus des modifications, Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs, chers collègues, j'ai également reçu de vous l'introduction d'instruments innovants, contribuant largement à la mise en œuvre de la Convention, à savoir les demandes d'utilisation d'un langage cohérent, tel le nouveau libellé proposé par l'Australie pour l'inscription possible sur la liste en péril. Au cours de cette session qui a duré 11 jours, avec parfois des séances de nuit, le comité a examiné environ 263 décisions, y compris celles provenant de 2 groupes de travail sur l'avenir de la Convention et le budget. Madame la Présidente, chers délégués, chers collègues, la 35e session du Comité du patrimoine mondial a enregistré des avancées significatives, comme l'attestent les résultats tangibles obtenus, traduisant à la fois l'engouement et l'engagement des États parties à mieux préserver leur patrimoine. Ces résultats se matérialisent à travers l'inscription de 25 nouveaux sites repartis comme suit: 3 naturels, 1 site mixte et 21 sites culturels. En somme, la liste du patrimoine mondial de l'UNESCO s'est vue enrichie et compte désormais 936 biens repartis comme suit: 183 sites naturels, 725 sites culturels et 28 sites mixtes. Par ailleurs, cette session a également enregistré 2 autres faits importants, à savoir 2 ajouts sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril: la réserve de biosphère de Rio Platano, au Honduras, le patrimoine des forêts tropicales ombrophiles de Sumatra en Indonésie. Ensuite, le deuxième élément important, c'est le retrait de la liste du patrimoine mondial du sanctuaire de faune de Manas. Excellence, Madame la Présidente, permettez-moi aussi de vous rassurer que j'ai signé toutes les révisions adoptées au cours de cette session, ce qui a permis la publication finale du document 35 comme V dans le délai imparti. J'ai également veillé à la préparation du document d'information 35 comme 21. Il s'agit du compte rendu analytique de la 35e session et qui vient compléter le rapport de décision. Enfin, Madame la Présidente, j'ai participé activement à l'élaboration des résumés des interventions et à leur mise en réseau sur le site web de l'UNESCO, dans le délai imparti. Je ne saurais terminer, Madame la Présidente, sans adresser une mention spéciale au secrétariat du Centre du patrimoine mondial, aux organisations consultatives, aux membres du comité, aux États parties, aux observateurs, aux partenaires, aux ONG et à tous ceux qui ont contribué à la réussite de la 35e session du Comité du patrimoine mondial. Aussi, j'ai saisi cette occasion pour féliciter et souhaiter bonne chance à notre collègue du Mexique, Mme Hernandez, ayant accepté volontairement d'assurer cette tâche combien exaltante de rapporteur, et la rassure de ma disponibilité à l'accompagner. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Sidi. Is there any comment of questions on the report of last session? I see none. So I propose that the committee takes note of this report by the rapporteur. If there is no objection, it is so decided. I close the agenda for agenda item 4. So now we move to the item 9A. Progress report on the implementation of the recommendation of the evaluation of the global strategy and the PACT initiative. Dear colleagues, as indicated in our timetable, it was foreseen to propose to open the item 9A with regards to progress report on the implementation of the recommendations of the evaluation of the global strategy and the PACT initiative concerning notably eventual meetings of the open-ended working group which initiate the reflection on this matter last 15 and 16 May in UNESCO headquarters. As you know, the open-ended working group decided not to meet during our session. It decided to meet in next January to pursue with its work in order to be able to report to the 19th session of the General Assembly in 2013. Therefore, dear colleagues, I think that this is clear and that we can move to the next item of our agenda, if you have no objections. Yes. Now we move to the next item 13.
Yes.
Establishment of the working group. Dear colleagues, before examining our next item, please let me address the establishment of a working group in conformity with Decision 35-13.8, by which the committee decided to establish an open-ended working group on the operational guidelines at the 36th session of the World Heritage Committee in 2012 to consider the proposals made by Jordan on paragraph 68 and reflect on other elements of the operational guidelines as may be proposed by other state parties. We are talking about item 13 covered by the document WHC 12/13.com/13. This working group may be established in accordance with Rule 20 of our Rules of Procedure, acting as a consultative body to our committee, open to the participation of all state parties wishing to take part, including states non-members of the committee. As you know, such a working group on the revision of the operational guidelines was already established at its 34th session by the committee. The working group will be established for the duration of the 36th session and will report back to the committee at its plenary meeting. The working group shall elect its own chairperson, but I would like to propose that it will be chaired by His Excellency Ambassador Imhoff from Switzerland, who did an excellent job during its last presidency of the group. Do any members of the committee wish to make observation and suggestion on this subject? Please, Colombia, take the floor. Germany, please take the floor.
Thank you very Oops, I'm loud, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Madam President. As you know, I love Ambassador Imhoff, and he has been a great chair. Just as a matter of principle, I think if it's the task of the working group to select their chairman, the working group should do it. Thank you.
I didn't understand.
She wants the working group to select the chairperson.
Okay.
Provided for them.
Okay, so
I
we have.
I think it's a matter
two,
of the
so we
rules,
have.
as it was decided. Sorry, that just to explain. Thank you.
Okay, it's up to members of the committee. So we have two proposals to support Mr. Imhoff, or the working group has to elect their chair themselves. So I have no objection. What other proposals? So I can suggest that maybe, yes, it's very reasonable that, you know, the working group will choose their own chair. Mr. Imhoff, you are not against?
I am in your hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So if I don't see any other suggestions, so decided. So the working group themselves will choose their chairperson. Thank you very much. So now I invite the Director General of World Heritage Center, Mr. Rao, to take the floor for some logical announcements which, with regards to the time and venue of meetings of the working group that we've just established. Mr. Rao, take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The working group on the operational guidelines will meet every day in the morning, starting tomorrow morning at 8:30 for 1 hour, from 8:30 to 9:30, in the same room that the Bureau will meet, which is the library in the Tavrichinsky Palace. So I would suggest that all those who are interested, since this is an open-ended working group, all states parties are it's possible for all states parties to attend this meeting, and the meeting will take place from 8:30 to 9:30 starting tomorrow morning. And the meeting should end promptly at 9:30 because in the same venue, the meeting of the Bureau will start at 9:30 a.m. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the item 15. This item related to our budget, covered by the document WHC 12/36.com/15.ref. I would like to give the floor to the Director General of the World Heritage, Mr. Rao, for presentation of this item. Mr. Rao, take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The document under your consideration is 36com/15rev. This is the revised version of the same document which was released on 11th of May. We have a revised version which was posted on the website, and it has been distributed to you, and the date of this document is 1st June 2012. So please make sure that you are using the correct version of the document for your discussions. Madam Chair, this agenda item number 15 is scheduled to be discussed on the 2nd of July, on the 3rd of July actually, but the intention now at this present moment is to consider the opening of a working group in order to be able to discuss this document in greater detail. As you recall, committee members, the last session of the World Heritage Committee decided to establish a standing committee, a consultative body for examination of the budget of the World Heritage Fund. So therefore, it is incumbent on the current session to establish such an open-ended working group under Rule 20 of the Rules of Procedure to consider this document in great detail. I will make a more detailed presentation at the working group, but just to sort of outline the framework of this document, the budget document number 15 consists of 3 parts. In part 1 of the document, we present the financial statement issued by the controller of UNESCO on the utilization of the budget of the World Heritage Fund for the previous biennium, 2010 and 2011. And this has been established by the Bureau of Financial Management and presents the consolidated table of allotments and expenditures of that fund. Part 2 of this document relates to a revised proposal which the Secretariat is presenting to the committee for its consideration. And this revision has been made against the budget that was approved for the current biennium, 2012 and 13, by the committee at its last session. And the reason why we are making a revised proposal for your consideration is because of the significant shortfall that we have had to face in the resources of the World Heritage Fund in view of the fact that the United States of America is unable to make its contributions even to the World Heritage Fund. So there is a revised proposal that is being submitted for your consideration. I may also mention that because of the resource constraints to the regular program of UNESCO, the World Heritage Center has also received a significantly lower budget than what was approved by the General Conference. For the World Heritage Fund, the budget that was approved by the committee at its last session was $6.6 million, and we are now proposing a revised budget of $5.2 million. A significant impact of that reduction will fall on the World Heritage Center to implement activities to follow up the decisions of the committee you yourself have taken in the previous session, as well as an impact on the budgets of the advisory bodies. So there will be a reduction in the activities which the advisory bodies will also have to bear, and all the details of these activities will be discussed during the working group sessions. I may also point out that there will be an impact on the international assistance that will be given from the World Heritage Fund to states parties, and therefore one has to consider how to enhance the sustainability of the World Heritage Fund. And therefore, part 3 of this document contains several options on how the sustainability of the World Heritage Fund can be enhanced. And I must thank the former member of the committee, the delegate from Israel, Mr. Mike Turner, who has carried out a study on how the sustainability of the World Heritage Fund can be enhanced. So part 3 of the document is an interesting reflection on how that can be achieved. So I would recommend that member states please study that part of the document in substantial detail before the working group commences its work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So you will remember that the committee established this group by the decision 35-12b, paragraph 13. As you know, during our last session, the working group on the budget has worked under the presidency of Madame Hernandez, who is now our reporter. So I would like to hear from the committee members if there is any proposal with regard to the chairmanship of this working group for the session. I see Mexico. Please take the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Primero que nada, quisiera felicitarla por haber asumido la dirigencia, presidencia de nuestros trabajos, al ser la primera vez que mi delegación habla. Y también agradecer cumplidamente al gobierno de la Federación Rusa por su hospitalidad y por la organización de este evento. Quisiera, me dicen que no hay traducción, no hay interpretación. Sí, sí. Perdón, de hecho quería también agradecer públicamente la generosidad de la delegación de Qatar para poder intervenir en español en esta reunión y la interpretación. Finalmente, la delegación de México quisiera atender a su petición y proponer al señor Martinus van Schalkwyk de Sudáfrica para presidir los trabajos del Grupo de Trabajo sobre el Presupuesto. El señor Van Schalkwyk tiene amplia experiencia en asuntos financieros y de presupuesto, tanto en UNESCO como en otras áreas, y creemos que puede hacer un gran trabajo dirigiendo los trabajos de ese grupo. Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
I see India. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two pleasant duties. One, to congratulate you on your assumption as chair of the World Heritage Committee. We know we are in good hands, and it's always nice to know that we are in good hands. I'd like to thank the government of the Russian Federation and the administration of St. Petersburg for the hospitality and for all of the hard work that has gone in. I'd also like to second the nomination, which has come from Mexico, of Martinus van Schalkwyk, and we know his experience. We know that he is eminently acquainted with the tasks that he will be called upon to perform. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So I see no other proposals. I see Germany.
Senegal. No, Senegal, I don't know. No.
Senegal?
No.
Two, no?
Germany.
Germany, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Maybe as a newcomer, I wasn't very well aware of the rules. I make my remark on the previous chair because I thought it should always be the working group to select their chair, because in this meeting only the members can speak. In the open-ended working groups we may have opinions of members who are not on the committee. That's why I made my remark on the other point, seeing that evidently the tradition is different. I would just make to make this explanatory note. Thank you.
Senegal, please take the floor.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal soutient la proposition et prend bonne note de la précision faite par l'Allemagne. Je pense qu'il faut un chef pour commencer partout. Merci.
So I suppose that we have not to open the discussion on this item. So I propose that we take note of the proposals of two countries, Mexico and India, and the working group takes this proposal like on the first group too, and then they will, after the first meeting, they will give us the name of the chair. Agreed? You are not against such proposal? Okay? Approved. So I invite now the Director General of World Heritage Center, Mr. Rao, to take the floor for some logistical announcements with regard to the time and venue of meeting of the working group. Mr. Rao, take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, logistical information. As the operational guidelines working group will meet in the morning, the only other time that would be available for this budget working group to meet will be during the lunch break. The lunch break, as you know, is from 1 to 3 p.m. and we are proposing that the budget working group meet for an hour from 2 to 3 p.m. And the meeting room will be, this meeting will start not today, perhaps it will start from tomorrow, and we will indicate the meeting room to you more precisely in the plenary at an appropriate time, either at the end of the day today or tomorrow morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the next item, 5A. The report of the World Heritage Center of the activities, which is contained in document WHC 12/36.com/5A.1. Under this item, we will also have to examine the draft of the new Partnerships for Conservation Pact initiative strategy, which is the subject of document WHC 12/36.com/5A.2. You have also at your disposal information document WHC 12/36.com/inf.5A.1 and inf.5A.2 and inf.5A.3. Regarding the report of the World Heritage Center of its activities, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Rao. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As mentioned by the chairperson, this report of the Secretariat basically encapsulates the activities that were implemented by the Center in collaboration, obviously, with the advisory bodies and many states parties between the last session and up to this session. And you will have to see this report together with the 3 information documents that are linked to it, as the chairperson already read out, INF 5A.1, INF 5A.2, and INF 5A.3. The INF 5A.1 provides a summary of the collaboration that the World Heritage Center has entered into with the other cultural conventions of UNESCO, as well as the other multilateral environmental agreements that exist outside UNESCO. The second document, INF 5A.2, contains a list of the ongoing and proposed partnerships with the private sector, as well as on the use of the World Heritage emblem, the permission that has been granted by the Center for the use of the World Heritage emblem. And this request had been made by the last session of the committee that we expressly provide these reports to the committee. The last information document, which is INF 5A.3, contains the implementation of the recommendation of the external auditor of the World Heritage Center, As you all recall, there was an audit of the World Heritage Center, which the external auditor of UNESCO carried out in 2009, and there were several recommendations that were made. So the report in this information document essentially contains the implementation status on the various recommendations. The detailed report of the activities that the center has implemented are contained in the main working document, document 5A.1, and I will not go into the details because it is a very lengthy document. I will just highlight some of the main features of this document and the way that it is presented. We have issued all the working documents by the statutory deadline. The statutory deadline for this particular session was 11th of May, and bulk of the documents were issued on that date. But because of the late receipt of reports from various quarters, as well as on the process involved in carrying out missions, etc., there were the remaining documents which were issued subsequent to that process. We have also issued the report of the decisions of the last session within the statutory deadline of 1 month of the conclusion of the last session. However, the summary record was delayed because it was a very lengthy summary record and we did not have the resources to enable its translation, and subsequently it had to be delayed, and we now have it online for the reference of committee members. I'm very pleased to note that between the last session and this current session, 3 new states parties have ratified the World Heritage Convention: Brunei Darussalam and Palestine, and very lately in June, Singapore has ratified the convention, which will come into effect in September this year, thus making it 190 states parties, the highest in any of the conventions in UNESCO and perhaps in the world as well. So it's almost a universal convention at this present point in time. You all know the results of the inscription of sites from the last session, so I will not repeat that information. Suffice to say that the report is structured as was demanded by the committee at its last session. We have presented the report in a results-based fashion. It follows the outline of the 5 strategic objectives of the conventions, and the implementation of activities is described by region. There are certain activities under each of the strategic objectives which are global in nature and have been implemented globally, but many of the activities pertain to specific regions, and therefore they are presented regionally. But please note that some of the activities are also described in greater detail in the respective periodic reports of the different regions, which you will be considering later on during the session under item 10. So please see this report on the implementation of activities together with the reports on the periodic reports under item 10. I must also point out that in view of the significant resource crunch faced by UNESCO and the World Heritage Center, the implementation of many of these activities would not have been possible but for the significant support that the states parties to the convention have provided for the implementation of various activities, either by hosting the implementation of many of these activities or by providing resources to enable the implementation of these activities. And the activities essentially flow from the decisions adopted by the committee at its previous session. Now, we have 2 annexes linked to the Secretariat's report. Annex 1 shows the status of implementation of the decisions adopted by the 35th session of the committee. You wanted to see what is the progress made in the implementation of various decisions, so Annex 1 contains the status of implementation for you to review and make further recommendations if you wish. You also wanted to see a consolidated list of meetings that we have organized or proposed to organize since the last session of the committee. And we have provided that in Annex 2 for your consideration. So you may wish to review that information as well. So that is basically the structure and framework of this document, and all the activities are listed there. And the draft decision for your consideration is on page 30 of the English version of this document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So I would ask you to press attention to the point 3 of the document, which contains the draft decision. If there are any comments or amendments to these decisions?
Russian Federation.
Russian Federation, please.
Спасибо, уважаемая госпожа председатель. В своем первом выступлении на сессии хотели бы поздравить от имени российской делегации участников с открытием и пожелать вам, госпожа председатель, и всем членам комитета успешной работы и продуктивных дискуссий. Мы взяли слово не для того, чтобы открыть дискуссию по этим пунктам, но мы хотели бы отметить работу Центра всемирного наследия в подготовке представленного доклада об исполнении Конвенции в истекшем году и сказать, что доклад носит обстоятельный характер, демонстрирует широкий географический охват, существенные количественные и качественные показатели текущей программной деятельности. При этом также отмечаем, что упомянутые успехи должны быть умножены на фактор жесткого бюджетного кризиса и последовавшие за ним кадровые и организационные сокращения, с которыми столкнулся ЦВН и другие организации, вовлеченные в соответствующие процессы. Одним из итогов текущего года стала, в частности, и организация нынешней сессии комитета. Хотели бы воспользоваться случаем и этой высокой трибуной и отдельно поблагодарить руководство и очень многих сотрудников Центра всемирного наследия за их высокую квалификацию, заинтересованное и доброжелательное сотрудничество в подготовке сегодняшнего форума. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. So I don't see any India wants to please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to congratulate the World Heritage Center for the report. Reports are interesting for what they say. They're even more interesting for what they do not say. And we have some insight on that in terms of, let me say, the delays or the pressures that the World Heritage Center is therefore working under. The issue of resources. And Madam Chair, as we go into the working group and as we go into this session, I think that we would want to keep in mind the fact that transparency of processes, whether it's the advisory bodies, whether it's the World Heritage Center, whether it's the programs, is actually something that UNESCO in its totality is committed to. And therefore, we should be working towards that. And anything which dilutes that, which dilutes the dialogue that is so essential between states parties and the center and the advisory bodies, that is obviously coming with the resource crunch. So I'd like to make the point, I do not intend to make an amendment of the resolution. I understand the constraints that the World Heritage Center is working under, but I think we should keep this in mind and keep it and flag it for discussion later in this session. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for your intervention. So I see no amendments and changes in the decision. So can we approve this decision, which it contains in this document 36.5a.1? Consider it adopted. Thank you very much. So now I would like to ask Madame Vujicic-Lugasi from the World Heritage Center to briefly present document WHC 12/36.com/5A.2, which concerns the draft of the new Partnerships for Conservation Pact Initiative Strategy. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At its 35th session, the committee invited the World Heritage Center to submit a draft for a new Partnerships Initiative or PACT strategy, taking into account the results of the evaluation of the external auditor of the PACT initiative and to present it for examination at this 36th session. The document in front of you proposes a new strategy based on the results of this evaluation, as well as on the lessons learned from the Center's partnerships work since the creation of PACT in 2002. The strategy has been elaborated in the context of the current reflection within UNESCO about partnership policies and strategies. This document should be read in conjunction with document WHC 1236-COM/INF 5A2, which provides a report on envisaged and existing partnerships. The working document gives a background of the development of the Center's partnerships initiative since its inception in 2002. It also presents the current status of the partnerships work at the UNESCO level. It gives a brief summary of the recommendations of the external evaluation, and finally proposes the principles of the new PACT strategy. Established exactly 10 years ago, PACT seeks to develop new partnerships that broaden corporate collaboration for the preservation of world heritage. It was created not only to ensure financial benefits, but also to enrich the dialogue between stakeholders and enable a broad participation of the private sector in world heritage promotion and preservation. Partnerships are extremely valuable for raising awareness about world heritage, as well as for mobilizing resources, both cash and in kind, such as technical expertise and provision of communication channels. They contribute to long-term world heritage conservation through collaboration on both programmatic and media activities. Partnerships serve to ensure the viability of important world heritage activities and programs which are otherwise not financed or insufficiently so through the regular budget or the World Heritage Fund. Efforts to structure partnerships work started with the elaboration of a regulatory framework which was adopted by the 29th session of the committee in 2005. Subsequently, an internal evaluation of PACT was presented in 2007 to the 31st session of the committee, and in 2008, at the 32nd session, a new strategic orientation for PACT was presented, but it was not discussed at that time by the committee. I would like to stress that PACT, besides being guided by its regulatory framework, also follows closely UNESCO's existing partnership directives, included in the administrative manual, as well as the UN Global Compact principles and UN business guidelines. Another important point to take into consideration before looking at the proposed strategy is the fact that UNESCO is currently developing a partnership policy framework. It was presented at the 187th Executive Board and will be finalized for adoption by the 190th session of the Executive Board in October this year. Thus, the PACT strategy needs to be considered within this broader organizational context. As you know, at the request of the 17th General Assembly of States Parties in 2009, an external evaluation of PACT was undertaken from December 2010 to March 2011. Following the recommendation of this evaluation and Resolution 8 of the 18th General Assembly in 2011, PACT strategy has been drafted with the aim to improve the traceability of contributions, transparency and monitoring, concordance of partnerships with the goals and objectives of the Convention, and to ensure the increase of the World Heritage Fund. PACT will also focus on the improvement of working procedures and practices to ensure efficiency in following up partnerships development and implementation. Consultations with national commissions are diligently undertaken prior to signature of every new partnership. In-house procedures are fully respected through collaboration with UNESCO's Bureau of Strategic Planning, and consultative entities involving partners and relevant internal structures and external organizations are envisaged for major partnerships. Given the limited resources provided through the regular budget and the World Heritage Fund towards enhancing the visibility of the Convention and World Heritage sites, financial and in-kind contributions from the private sector are crucial to ensure that communication, education, and partnerships work can be fulfilled. The financial benefits earmarked through a number of partnerships are indispensable for sustaining core activities of the Center related to at least 2 of the 5 Cs: capacity building through the World Heritage Education Program, and communication through partnerships development, enhancing the website, and public information. Partnerships also support specific World Heritage priority programs, such as the Marine or the Tourism Program. And finally, partnerships also ensure direct input into the International Assistance Fund. The use of the emblem follows the principles in the operational guidelines and is strictly regulated according to the terms of each signed agreement. Every resource using the name and logo of UNESCO and World Heritage is subject to approval by the Center and, if needed, by the UNESCO External Relations and Information Sector. Finally, among the key principles of the strategy, I would like to highlight that PACT will seek to develop long-term strategic partnerships whose sustainability will depend on quality programs. Partner relationships will continue to be based on mutual respect and understanding. PACT will continue identifying and mobilizing high-value partners to leverage maximum impact, while meeting the goals of the Convention and adhering to UN values. PACT will continue improving guidelines and mechanisms for partnership development through coherent monitoring and evaluating, and through applying transparent financial follow-up tools. You will find the draft decision in part 6 on page 6, both in the English and French version. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vesna, for your interesting presentation. So I would like to remind you that we are also invited to adopt the draft decision included in point 6 of the document you have in front, excuse me, in front of you. Are there any comments?
Germany.
Germany, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would recommend and applaud the sector for this strategic approach to deal with partnerships. We think it's crucial for the development of the work with the Convention, and we hope that this will always also reflect with the national committees who are dealing with World Heritage protection. Also, we appreciate the transparency that goes along with it, because we found out some people are getting things for free that others are paying for, so maybe we can get them all paying. That would be very nice. So congratulations, and I think it's a very valuable document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to representative of Mexico. Floor is yours.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Ha llamado la atención que la estrategia propuesta plantea que los recursos de las asociaciones se destinarían principalmente para compensar la falta de recursos del Centro de Comunicaciones del Centro de Patrimonio Mundial y para gastos de coordinación de dichas asociaciones. México se pronuncia a favor que los recursos productos de las asociaciones se destinen principalmente a apoyar actividades de conservación de los sitios inscritos en la lista del patrimonio. También sugerimos que la Secretaría desarrolle un sitio web, un sitio electrónico dedicado específicamente a las asociaciones, en la que se incluya información actualizada de estas asociaciones. Concerniente al uso del emblema y consistentemente con la posición que hemos adoptado, México considera que el Centro de Patrimonio Mundial debe desarrollar a la brevedad posible los criterios y los indicadores a los que hace referencia en el párrafo 15 del documento. Por otro lado, dado que el grupo de trabajo de composición abierta aún no se ha reunido para analizar las recomendaciones de PACT, y tomando en cuenta que la nueva iniciativa de UNESCO sobre asociaciones se va a presentar hasta la 190 sesión del Consejo Ejecutivo, estamos sugiriendo una enmienda al proyecto de decisión 36.5A.2, que hemos enviado ya a la relatora para su inclusión y que, si me permite, leería en idioma inglés a reserva de que sea circulado a las delegaciones en su debido curso. La propuesta de lenguaje es como sigue. The World Heritage Committee, having examined document WHC-36.com/5A2, document WHC-1236.com/inf5A.2 and WHC-1236.com/9A, recalling decisions 34.5A and decisions 35 COM 5A, also recalling Resolution 18GA8 adopted by the 18th General Assembly of States Parties to the Convention, by which the recommendations on the Partnership for Conservation Initiative were endorsed. Considering that the open-ended working group in charge of producing an implementation plan for the recommendations of the external auditor will be meeting prior to the 37 sessions of the committee to discuss the recommendation of the PACT initiative, mindful that the UNESCO's partnership policy framework will be presented for consideration to the 190th Executive Board session, takes note of the proposed strategy to improve the development of partnerships for World Heritage with the private sector, their implementation and their evaluation through adequate tools and guidelines, as contained in document WHC 1236.com5A, requests the World Heritage Center to present at its 37th session a revised PACT initiative strategy that takes into account the plan of action, the decision adopted during the 119 Executive Board, and the debates on the 36th session on the committee. As I said before, this is going to be circulated. Thank you, Mr. President, Mrs. President.
Thank you very much. For sake of time, I propose for future, because we receive all these amendments from you, and it's a duty of our reporter to read it, and maybe if you want to discuss, we can put on screen, but normally we will not put to screen if it is not very much, difficult issue, I would say. So now I give the floor to South Africa. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to join my colleagues in congratulating the Chair and thanking the Russian Federation for the hospitality. South Africa acknowledges the extensive processes in formalizing a partnership for conservation initiative, PACT, drafting the PACT strategy, the efforts made to increase resources through the PACT initiative, and UNESCO's external auditor making available the existing and intended partnership information. We also note from the information presented that most of the partnership listed supports Objective 1 of PACT, namely to raise awareness about World Heritage and the related programs. It would be recommended that the facilitation of partnership supporting Objective 2, that is to mobilize sustainable resources for the long-term conservation of the World Heritage, be also enhanced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now I give the floor to the representative of Switzerland. Please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. À mon tour de vous féliciter pour votre élection et surtout de remercier les autorités pour leur accueil. Je dois dire que Saint-Pétersbourg, en particulier sous le soleil, est encore plus beau que Saint-Pétersbourg hier sous la pluie. Je peux être relativement bref, Madame la Présidente. Ce que je voulais dire va à 90% dans la ligne de ce qu'a dit la distinguée collègue du Mexique. En effet, le rapport qui nous a été présenté est un rapport très utile, très bon. Il va dans les détails, il nous donne toutes les données budgétaires de manière globale. Mais, comme vous le savez, nous venons de décider, sous point 9A que le groupe de travail de mise en œuvre des recommandations de l'évaluation de la stratégie globale et de l'initiative PACT va se réunir et va devoir discuter de la question des pactes également. Dans ce contexte, nous pensons dès lors qu'il est prématuré d'adopter maintenant une stratégie, Madame la Présidente, et je suis tout à fait d'accord avec la collègue du Mexique qu'à ce stade, nous devrions en quelque sorte prendre note de l'excellent rapport qui nous a été soumis et d'attendre en quelque sorte le rapport du groupe de travail. Nous avons préparé dans ce sens-là d'ailleurs une modification qui va tout à fait dans le sens de ce que le Mexique a proposé. Elle est peut-être moins élaborée puisque nous pensons que le travail concret va être fait lors de la réunion du groupe de travail ouvert à toutes les parties. De même, nous pensons qu'il est important d'adapter quelque peu le paragraphe 4 du projet de décision que nous avons donc envoyé. Nous avons envoyé un amendement à ce sujet, car nous aimerions une approche plus analytique dans les présentations, en particulier de où va le budget. Voilà les deux amendements que nous avons envoyés et je les soumets à votre examen, à l'examen du rapporteur. Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je ne voudrais pas être le seul à ne pas vous remercier pour l'organisation de cette session et remercier aussi naturellement les autorités de la Fédération de Russie et la municipalité de Saint-Pétersbourg pour leur accueil. Autrement, je voulais simplement appuyer la proposition de l'ambassadeur de Suisse en disant que tout ceci devait être rediscuté un peu plus calmement plus tard.
Thank you very much. So, as I understood from the intervention of our colleagues, that you in general support the proposal of Mexico to amend this decision by these 3 points, which recommends that the working group will analyze all the recommendation and in future so how to discuss the recommendation of the PACT initiative and present it to the 37th session of the committee. So now I give the floor to the reporter, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I think the Secretariat has already the document with the amendments from Mexico and Switzerland. So I can tell you, Madam Chairperson, that there are numerous new paragraphs proposed by Mexico. So you may want to have this DR on the screens so the committee can take a look, because there are numerous changes of the draft decision.
Yes, please put on the screen new draft decision with amendments. So I propose that we go point by point as usual. So the first is having examined document 100HC12/36.com/5A.2, documents 100HC12/36com/inf.5A.2 and WHC 12/36.com/9A. Are there any objections? So approved. Recalling decision 34.5A and decision 35.5A. No objections. So then new paragraph. Paragraph 3. Also recalling resolution 18 GA8 adopted by the 18th General Assembly of State Parties to the Convention, by which the recommendations on the Partnership for Conservation Initiatives (brackets PACT) were endorsed. Comma. Point 4, considering that the open-ended working group in charge of producing an implementation plan for the recommendations of the external auditor will be meeting prior to the 37th session of the committee to discuss the recommendations of the PACT initiative. Point 5. Mindful that the UNESCO's partnership policy framework will be presented for consideration to the 190th Executive Board session.
You may wish to adopt 3, 4.
Yes, so I forgot that we have to adopt point by point. Do you have any objection on amendments or changes in the paragraph 3, 4, 5? Yes, please.
Please help me. Would it be possible to have a look at the entire text? Because if not, we don't know where we are.
It's entire text.
I
Martina,
was not-
it's entire text.
Of the paragraphs, but I don't know where it leads to because I couldn't follow so quickly. And I see it for the first time. I apologize to delegations. Maybe we can just allow people to read it by themselves, scroll it down, and then come back to the adoption of paragraphs? Could we do that? With the consent of Mexico?
She wants to see the full decision.
Okay, so you want to see the whole decision?
Please.
Okay. Please put on the screen the
Yes,
whole
they're doing
decision.
it.
The paragraph is 13.
Est-ce que vous savez comment je peux le mettre en anglais?
Oui, on peut pas lire
Je
toute
sais,
la...
I called the technician. He is coming.
Oh,
Je sais pas. Non, she's only French, I think.
Ah oui, non, mais
Let me
elle
check.
l'avait en anglais.
So, everybody read the whole text?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
You can give them time. There is enough time, not to worry.
So I see the South Africa wants to take the floor. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to suggest that we haven't had the time to, since the amendments, we just got the amendments now, can we be given time to study and discuss later?
Yes, of course, we have time. Please take time and carefully look for the amendments.
Not now.
You know, excuse me, as I see the technical difficulties to put everything on the screen, now it will be printed and given to you in written. Yes. So, excuse me, what you wish to do? We can move to the next item, we can start next item, and then you will receive these amendments and we return back to this decision, okay? So, let's move to the item 5B. It's reports of the advisory bodies on their activities. These reports are presented in document WHC 12/36.com/5B. I will now invite the representative of IUCN to take the floor on this subject, followed by the representative of ICOMOS and the representative of ICROM. Please, representative of IUCN, you have the floor. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. As this is IUCN's first intervention, firstly let me thank you and the Russian Federation for your welcome and the excellent support that's been provided to organize this meeting. I'm pleased to also bring the good wishes for the meeting's success of the President of IUCN, Mr. Ashok Khosla, and our Director General, Julia Martin-Lefebvre. IUCN's report is set out in the working document. As with all of the advisory body reports this year, it is a short report, and we're ready to answer questions that arise from delegations upon it. I would just like to mention 3 points that update the report or emphasize points within it. Firstly, to note that IUCN is revising and extending its program of work on World Heritage with a particular focus on extending our regional network, strengthening our work on monitoring, including new methods to assess the conservation outlook of all natural World Heritage sites, and also supporting the advice on nominations well before they are considered for submission, which has been called the upstream process. I'd like to acknowledge the support of the MAVA Foundation, the Swiss government for major programmatic support for our work, and also to the states parties of Germany, the Republic of Korea and Australia, who are working with us to support a range of activities. And I'd also like to pay tribute to our partnership with the African World Heritage Fund, both ICOMOS and ICOMOS Norway, with ICROM, and of course with the World Heritage Centre in developing additional work on a range of initiatives, including the work that's focused on communities and rights, on capacity development, on African natural heritage and on marine conservation. We're here with a delegation which includes a number of our regional focal points, including from Africa with Mr. Yusuf Diedu, from the Arab states with Haifa Abdul Halim, and from Southeast Europe with Mr. Boris Erg. And we have a sheet with our delegation, which I will wave for the camera, which will circulate to committee members, and you can see who will be with us. Please do take the opportunity to make contact with us, and particularly with the regional focal points we have here for the first part of the meeting, if it will be interesting to you. And please do not hesitate to arrange any discussions you wish with our delegation. I'd like to note we also have focal points who are not with us, but presently working in both the Pacific and also in Latin America, and we'd be happy to discuss our work in any region or any country if you wish. I'd like to thank all of those in IUCN who contribute to the work on World Heritage, which this year has involved upwards of 500 different people involved directly in evaluation, monitoring and in implementing work on the ground with sites, and through training and support to possible nominations. And I thank my extremely hard-working team, our IUCN panel, and all of those evaluators and reviewers who volunteer significant time and expertise to support this effort. And I'd like to single out the exceptional contribution of Mr. Alan Putney, who is not with us this year, but is departing as our Vice Chair for World Heritage after 8 years of work for his exceptional contribution. Secondly, this growing contribution, including significant volunteer efforts of many experts across our Commission on Protected Areas and wider network, is very significant, and in financial terms amounts, we estimate, to something in the region of $1 million annually, over and above the support we receive for the regular advisory body work. And this is a contribution IUCN is making with its partners to the Convention, in the belief that this Convention represents and will continue to represent the highest international standards of performance excellence and leadership in heritage. So we look to the committee to guard jealously that reputation for excellence and quality, and we noted and would echo the alarm raised by the Director General of UNESCO in her speech at the opening yesterday, that the concerns that are existing around the Convention's technical standards, of the degree to which the operational guidelines are given effect, are something which are starting to attract wider comment and criticism that reaches us, and based on the feedback we receive, we would endorse the observation that it's of the highest importance that this session, the 36th session, really does address the issue of maintaining and underlining the reputation that the World Heritage Convention represents for excellence. Lastly, I would like to update you on IUCN's World Conservation Congress, which happens every 4 years, and this year will take place on Jeju Island, which is itself a natural World Heritage Site in the Republic of Korea. That meeting takes place between the 6th and 15th of September this year. It will bring together around 8,000 delegates across the whole of IUCN's constituency, and that will be the place where we will debate our future programme for the next 4 years. If you are not aware of that meeting but you're interested to take part, please do consider joining us. And in relation to World Heritage, I'm pleased to note a major increase in the interest across our network in World Heritage. We will be debating and adopting a new motion on IUCN's work on World Heritage. There will be several flagship workshops, including those associated with celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Convention, as well as a range of training events and a pavilion, a public space which will celebrate protected areas in the World Heritage Convention, and we hope to see many of you there. We're delighted, as I said, to respond to any questions, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Are any questions, comments on the report of IUCN? Please raise your nameplates if you have any questions. I see.
Mali.
Yes, Mali, please take the floor.
Well, thank you, Madam. I would like to know if UNCN, ICOMOS, and ICRON, they have a common program for the 14th anniversary of the Convention. Thank you. Je voudrais savoir si vous avez un programme commun pour le 40e anniversaire.
Thank you very much. India, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank IUCN for that excellent, concise, and comprehensive presentation. A number of very critical issues actually went through the text and sometimes the subtext. I noted the wise words of the Director General that the technical standards under which the Convention is operated should not be diluted. I note the issues that confront the World Heritage Center. Somewhere in our session, many of these issues are being dealt with at different points on the agenda in different forms. But there is a common concern, and that concern covers not only the quality of the technical assistance, but also the role of the advisory bodies. Are they only evaluative bodies? Are they assistive bodies? Do they go beyond? How does this extend? And Madam Chair, I think we owe it to ourselves and to the Convention to spend some time on that. Maybe in some way the working group is an obvious forum, but working groups are not a substitute for prime agenda time. So I would suggest, and I do raise the issue that the advisory bodies themselves, the transparency, the processes through which their recommendations are delivered, the time frame that states parties have to react, the assistive role, which is there. It's implicit, it's explicit, but they tend to come through more as evaluative bodies, which is an important role, but surely not their only role. And we could save a lot of time and a lot of money if we actually covered all of the many different roles that they're being called upon to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Senegal. The floor is yours, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je devrais commencer par remercier l'UICN pour son rapport et qualité de son travail. On n'est pas toujours d'accord avec eux, mais on se rend compte quand même que les conseils sont souvent bien avisés. Je voudrais intervenir sur le point 37 du rapport. Je crois que c'est très important de relever les anomalies, les insuffisances qu'il y a dans les dossiers, mais je pense que ce serait intéressant si l'UICN pouvait, dans le futur, faire un effort en termes de guidance et de direction des efforts dans lesquels on souhaite les États s'engager et peut-être même évaluer le coût en termes de temps et pourquoi pas de budget pour qu'on puisse essayer d'être dans une logique de préservation de la biodiversité. Je pense que c'est très important de montrer qu'il y a des problèmes, mais c'est très très utile et essentiel de donner des indications qui pourraient aider à résoudre les problèmes posés. Voilà ce que je voulais faire comme commentaire. Merci.
Thank you very much, sir. Mexico, please take the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. México también quiere expresar su preocupación y desacuerdo porque los procesos de evaluación que llevan a cabo los organismos asesores no siempre se conducen con la suficiente claridad, objetividad y respeto a los Estados parte al descalificar a las instituciones gubernamentales de manera categórica. Este tipo de juicios va en desmedro del diálogo y de la convivencia que deben privar en los organismos internacionales. México, como Estado parte de la Convención, ha atendido y acatado plenamente las decisiones y recomendaciones del Comité en cuanto a la vinculación de los diferentes instrumentos internacionales de la UNESCO en el ámbito cultural, dados los objetivos y similitudes de sus métodos de trabajo y procedimientos de implementación, así como ha atendido puntualmente la solicitud de información sobre el estado de conservación de sus sitios ya inscritos en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial. Por ello, invitamos a los organismos asesores a comprometerse a presentar información completa, sin omisiones, y a cuidar los procedimientos para una objetiva evaluación de nuevas e innovadoras nominaciones que enriquecerían, conforme a la estrategia global, nuevas categorías, a la vez que reforzaría la credibilidad, representatividad y equilibrio de la misma lista. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Muchas gracias, representante de México. Y now I give the floor to the representative of Malaysia. Please take the floor.
Madam Chair, this is the first time we are speaking, and we would like to congratulate you for your chairmanship and also for your hospitality. Malaysia would like to support India's suggestion and also Mexico's, because we see that the advisory bodies can perform a very important role, and we would like to benefit from it rather than not benefit from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Germany, floor is yours.
Thank you. We would like to congratulate IUCN on this report and on its work, because we think they have the most difficult role to speak for those who cannot speak, for rhinos and elephants and natural landscapes and so on. So in principle, big congratulations. I would like to support what was said by Senegal. If possible, and I think Mexico and India go to the same direction, if possible, it would be tremendously helpful to combine the criticism with an outward way to go. And I know this will be very difficult because the decisions are finally by the committee, and IUCN cannot make proposals that later the committee may say is difficult. But I think there is a line in which more of this would be possible. And I understand the remarks of the colleagues that we are all here to really try to preserve the natural resources, because once they are gone usually. So thank you very much. I would like in this context to learn about IUCN's experiences in the upstream process. Maybe this will come at a later point, or now, I don't know. I'm in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Estonia.
Thank you very much. Estonia would also like to start by thanking Russian Federation for all their effort and hospitality. Coming to the report by the advisory bodies, Estonia would like to point out that our system really is based on the work of advisory bodies, but without their work, committee couldn't do anything. And this work is really very valuable, and the standards of World Heritage are high, and they need to maintain high. And I think that the concerns that were raised by many delegations, they are covered by a valuable initiative which is called the upstream process, which is really an effort to make the communication between advisory bodies and the state party as efficient as possible and as close as possible. So I'm very encouraged by this initiative, and I would like once more to thank the advisory bodies for the work they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Now I give the floor to the representative of Colombia.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nos queremos unir a todos los agradecimientos y felicitaciones de los otros estados partes que han manifestado a su gobierno y felicitarla por su posición de presidenta. Sabemos que va a ser extraordinaria como siempre. Queremos unirnos a los comentarios que ha hecho México e India. Colombia cree que es esencial el trabajo de los órganos consultivos para que este comité tenga un balance, tenga transparencia, pero igualmente queremos que haya una gran transparencia en el proceso que ellos utilizan para hacer el análisis de todas las nominaciones. Creemos, como México lo indicó, que hay un procedimiento que queremos ver para las nuevas y las nominaciones innovativas. Estas necesitamos que tengan una mente más abierta, puesto que son nominaciones de culturas distintas, de nuevas regiones, que queremos ver este procedimiento. Agradecemos de todas maneras el reporte de IUCN, que creemos que es muy efectivo y muy claro. Agradecemos igualmente el trabajo que están haciendo con el upstream. En nuestra región está San Vincent, Granadín y Uruguay. Estamos esperando ver los resultados de esos análisis. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Muchas gracias, Colombia. Now I give the floor to South Africa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was given a mandate by South African delegation to make few comments. Chair, South African delegation appreciates the work of IUCN and other advisory bodies. We always appreciate their advice. We know their advice at a difficult time of the changing world, which is changing very fast. The targets are moving. Perhaps there's a need, Chair, to adapt new approaches when they do the missions. We know we need to be precautionary in order to save our heritage. However, there are realities on the ground that we need to deal with in order to conserve this heritage. Perhaps there are too many missions, Madam Chair, because of the changing world I alluded to earlier. Perhaps more support should be given to the advisory bodies. Finally, Chair, we want to emphasize as the South African delegation that the advisory bodies, especially IUCN in this case, to take note of work that is being done by other science platforms, being it in climate change, be it in biodiversity, in order there should be no doubt on their advice they give to state parties when it comes to natural heritage. Therefore, there's a need, Chair, I want to echo other state parties to say we need more transparency and we need to improve communication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Ethiopia.
Thank you, Chair. I'm representing the delegation from Ethiopia. I would like to thank you for all the setup, the organization in this palace, and I would like to thank also IUCN for their, proper advice and everything. But I was just wondering how, conservation of this natural heritage or cultural heritage are seen with the aspect of, sustainable development. Countries like ours, especially most of the countries in the developing countries, they are, they have to know about these development issues, how the heritage issue is seen together with the sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see no one else wants to take the floor. Dear colleagues, it seems to me that this discussion, your intervention, shows that this problem of relationship with the advisory bodies is a very, very important and very actual problem for everybody. We feel that something is going wrong, I would say. With all appreciation of the work of advisory bodies, we respect their opinion, but once more, something wrong in relationship between the advisory bodies and countries. And it seems to me that in our agenda, we have one item when we have, let's say, maybe recommend to organize such working group in future. I don't consider that it will be reasonable to organize this working group now, I mean during this session, because we are overloaded and we have 2 working groups. Maybe for future we can to organize the same open-ended group which will work in very close cooperation with advisory bodies, but I propose that we will look and discuss this issue and recommend the decision under item 12C, when we will see the progress report on the reflection concerning the upstream process, where we will, and we can add to the decision of this item our recommendation in accordance with this discussion which we had now. And with your permission, I will proceed, move on and invite ICOMOS to make their presentation. And I would like to remind you that you have 5 minutes. Thank you. ICOMOS, take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the ICOMOS delegation, it is my pleasure to express our appreciation to the Russian Federation and to the people and authorities of St. Petersburg for the organization of the 36th committee meeting and for the warm welcome that has been extended to us. To you, Mr. Rao, to all distinguished members of the committee and of the States Party's delegations who have worked for the success of the World Heritage Convention, we extend our warmest congratulations on its 40th anniversary. We have a lot to celebrate for our achievements in conserving and protecting the places that are dearest to all of humanity, and many ICOMOS national committees have joined in this worldwide celebration. Since the genesis of the convention and uninterruptedly over the past four decades, ICOMOS has supported the work of the World Heritage Committee by endeavoring to provide you with the best professional advice and with all the relevant information necessary to help you make the decisions on the future of our shared cultural heritage. To do this, we deploy as needed the substantial multidisciplinary and multicultural intellectual and experiential resources that are specific to ICOMOS by virtue of being the only global membership organization dedicated to the protection of the cultural heritage of all humanity. As an international non-governmental membership organization, the networks of ICOMOS include hundreds of specialized institutions, 11,000 members, and 28 international scientific committees that represent all disciplines and professions active in the protection of the cultural heritage in more than 130 countries. During the orientation session yesterday, the extent of our work as your advisory body was explained to you extensively. Our report on our work for this 36th session has been distributed to you in the document under 36.com 5b, so I will not repeat it. I would simply like to underline that ICOMOS is regularly refining our procedures to ensure that our recommendations are transparent, are based on rigorous professional principles, and that the participation of our members adheres to the strictest ethical principles. In this 40th year of the convention, ICOMOS celebrates the work being done to chart its future course, including the 10-year strategic plan. All these goals will need adequate resources and efficient working methods. ICOMOS reiterates its commitment to its global networks to these objectives, noting with pride the significant voluntary support by our members and our Secretariat to the work that we will present to you here in St. Petersburg. This is a voluntary contribution on the part of ICOMOS in excess of 460,000 euros, a lot for a very poor organization. They supplement the funds received from our contracts with UNESCO. I must underline, however, that ICOMOS cannot sustain this voluntary support indefinitely. Over the next days, you will receive our advice in the form of recommendations. Each of our recommendations results from the cumulative knowledge of many eminent experts from all corners of the world, even though you'll only see about 4 of us up in this podium. Our advisory role to you is a responsibility that we treasure as well as embrace with the utmost seriousness. Distinguished members of the committee, as your advisory body for so many years, ICOMOS knows that not all our recommendations will be welcomed by you or by some state parties. ICOMOS is aware of what lies behind each nomination, the high level of time and human talent, the emotional and financial resources, and the political capital that nominating states parties as well as local communities have invested. That is why we also understand the deep disappointment and frustration that can come from the negative recommendations regarding inscription or even delays in doing so. We echo, along with others that have already spoken to the topic, that in the past few committee meetings, there has been a noticeable increase in the committee's decisions that are contrary to our recommendations on nominations to the World Heritage List, on state of conservation reports, and on request to consider inscribing sites on the World Heritage List in danger. While our professional recommendations must and do adhere to the procedures that you yourselves have so carefully detailed in the operational guidelines, we acknowledge with some concern that you, the members of the committee, have the privilege to make different decisions on the basis of a wider range of political, economic, and other considerations that ICOMOS does not and cannot take into account if we are to meet our essential duty to World Heritage conservation and protection. As an organization whose foremost concern is the protection of all heritage sites, the highest concern of ICOMOS is for excellence in the protection and conservation of all cultural sites, whether they are inscribed in the World Heritage List or not. This is why we must also express our deep concern for certain sites where we have seen that their unsuccessful bid for inscription has led to a significant decline in their protective structure. ICOMOS believes that all properties nominated to the World Heritage List possess great cultural significance and that all are meritorious of the highest protection, notwithstanding whether they get inscribed in the list or not. For all these reasons, ICOMOS wholeheartedly and unequivocally supports the further exploration to find more effective and perhaps even more audacious means of upstream cooperation with the states parties on both the nomination process and on inscribed properties whose state of conservation may need improvement. ICOMOS also welcomes other initiatives to assess how the nomination process could be streamlined so that in the future we may avoid unnecessary expenditures and disappointments on the part of states parties, and especially local communities and stakeholders whose expectations we know are often raised by the prospect of having their heritage properties recognized at World Heritage List. We heard your comments and your concerns. They were very clear, and I assure you that we're open to conversations and to clarification of any issues related to our recommendations. I thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me the honor to address the committee and reiterate that the entire ICOMOS team is looking forward to present to you our best judgment over the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Now I open not discussion, but maybe you have some, suggestion. I see the Senegal. Please take the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Merci Monsieur le rapporteur de l'ICOMOS. Nous apprécions beaucoup le rapport que vous venez de présenter. Nous reconduisons les observations faites un peu pour nos collègues de l'UICN. Et je voudrais vraiment vous assurer sur le fait que les membres du comité apprécient à la juste valeur le travail que vous produisez. Je voudrais insister sur un certain nombre de points. Dans votre rapport, il est fait état des missions de conseil au nombre de 3. Je pense que ce sont des missions importantes et qu'il faudrait peut-être à l'avenir songer à renforcer ces missions de conseil. Ça peut aider les États partis à mieux se préparer, à mieux gérer leur patrimoine. J'apprécie aussi beaucoup le fait que vous ayez travaillé avec insistance sur le renforcement des capacités. C'est très important parce que les communautés, souvent sur les territoires desquels il y a des biens à protéger, ne sont pas nécessairement préparés. Il faudrait peut-être en profiter pour féliciter la Suisse et le Bahreïn qui ont rendu possible ces opérations. Je voudrais enfin qu'on insiste sur un point. Et je crois que c'est un début de solution. C'est au point A7.27 où vous avez étudié toutes les demandes d'assistance internationale et soumis des rapports et des panels. Je pense que c'est important. C'est une direction vers laquelle on devrait pouvoir s'orienter pour faire de telle sorte qu'on puisse être à niveau et surtout faire de telle sorte qu'on puisse échanger sur la totalité des biens qui sont en discussion. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. India takes the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me echo much of what if not all, of what my colleague from Senegal has said. There are some reasonably what a member state politely called categorical statements in the joint comments of the advisory bodies. And it is the fact that it is considered that it is the World Heritage Committee that has actually sort of created this situation where the wonderful advice of the advisory bodies is not listened to on all occasions. Madam Chair, I think that as you pointed out, there is a problem, and I think it does need to be addressed, and I think the bodies are extremely important as catalysts in that process, as key elements in that process of review. The fact that the operational guidelines and the way that they're implemented, the way the advice of the advisory bodies is incorporated. From the discussion that I see, firstly, transparency, dialogue. I think these are two key words that we would do well to remember, that the advice of advisory bodies is advisory, and it should be given well in time. There should be a dialogue with the states parties, in many cases perhaps with the communities and the people who have conserved and nurtured that heritage maybe over generations. Secondly, that this is, at the end of the day, I believe, an intergovernmental committee. It gets advice from the extremely competent, capable, wonderful advisory bodies. It can also get advice from other bodies and from other agencies, and in many cases it should. Let me add to this, because I think much of this ground is covered and has been covered, and I'm sure, Madam Chair, that you would incorporate the concerns in the report that you would make at the end of it. The fact that much of World Heritage has a regional, very specific context. These are cultural contexts, and it is very important to send people who are familiar with that regional context. Sometimes you may need to send more than one person. Sometimes you may need to have specialists in that field. I'm not sure, Madam Chair, and that is why I think that the call for transparency in the expertise that is sent out is extremely important. I do seem to remember that the regional thematic studies are still pending, and are pending for a period of time which I think has gone above. In fact, the gap analysis, I believe, has not been updated since 2004. Now that is 8 years down the line. I think we owe it to ourselves. I think that the time to begin that dialogue with the advisory bodies, with other bodies, on bringing to the entire process of World Heritage a restored degree of credibility, of transparency, of dialogue is now, and maybe this session in this wonderful city is a good time to initiate that process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I give the floor to the representative of Switzerland.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. J'aimerais peut-être dire à ce stade, et bien que vous ayez décidé, à juste titre, de reprendre la discussion lors de l'examen du point 12A, que pour la Suisse, les organisations consultatives sont partie prenante à la Convention. Elles sont une cheville ouvrière pour les travaux du comité, un comité qui change tous les 2 ans, où les membres passent, laissent des traces, où d'autres reprennent, parce que la vie est changeante. Elles sont l'élément, je dirais, stabilisateur. Bien sûr, mon collègue indien a tout à fait raison. Ce sont des organisations consultatives. Et en tant que telles, elles n'ont pas à se substituer au comité. Néanmoins, en ma qualité de juriste, j'ose dire que le fait que dans le règlement, il est prévu qu'une recommandation des organisations consultatives qui ne serait pas suivie par le comité doit obtenir 2/3 de majorité, montre le poids de ces organisations. Si je dis cela, je ne veux pas encore dire que leur travail est excellent. Ne me comprenez pas mal. Et je crois qu'il y a effectivement un problème de dialogue et de transparence. Ma collègue de la Colombie, je crois, tout à l'heure, a souligné l'importance de la procédure en amont. Et je crois qu'effectivement, là, il y a un travail à faire parce qu'il y a une nécessité d'un regain de confiance entre les membres du comité, qui sont des représentants d'États souverains, et les membres clés des organisations consultatives, qui sont des experts dans lesquels nous devons pouvoir avoir confiance. Et je crois que là, un dialogue structuré, un dialogue dans le cadre d'une enceinte, je ne sais pas encore comment l'organiser, est essentiel. J'y avais déjà fait référence, Madame la Présidente, lors de la session passée, et je crois qu'il est essentiel que nous travaillions la main dans la main. Il y a un problème de confiance, il y a un problème de dialogue. On parle parfois d'autres langues dans le sens large du terme, entre lorsqu'on est d'un côté de la barrière, si je puis dire ainsi, et nous avons besoin de trouver ce dialogue auquel le collègue indien fait référence. La faute n'est ni d'un côté ni de l'autre. Comme dans un long mariage, Madame la Présidente, la faute est souvent des deux côtés et il s'agit de trouver le chemin pour renouer le fil du dialogue. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Now I give the floor to the representative of Colombia.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Efectivamente, queremos hacer eco de las palabras del embajador de India, del embajador de Suiza. Es un sentimiento generalizado. El sentimiento es doble, es un sentimiento que entendemos lo esencial del trabajo de los órganos consultivos, eso es innegable, están en los guidelines, nosotros mismos sentamos esa necesidad, pero necesitamos un diálogo y una transparencia. Cuando hablamos de transparencia, les podemos dar un ejemplo preciso en Colombia. Los expertos que envían a veces no hablan ni siquiera el idioma, no conocen nuestra cultura, no conocen la idiosincrasia de nuestra región. Entendemos que no quisiéramos tener más expertos de nuestra región. Eso sería interesantísimo para nosotros porque el número de GRULAC es muy pequeño de Latinoamérica. Sin embargo, son expertos que tengan el conocimiento de nuestras culturas para poder analizarlos dentro del contexto. No nos sentimos bien representados a veces, sentimos que los reportes que se presentan no entienden nuestras preocupaciones, no entienden las preocupaciones de nuestras comunidades, comunidades que obviamente tienen gran expectativa, pero no es solamente por estar en la lista, sino por proteger esta cultura para el futuro de nuestros jóvenes. Ese es todo el objetivo de proteger la cultura, no es simplemente por estar en la lista, es la conservación para el futuro. Y por esto necesitamos que los análisis que se hagan sean transparentes, concretos, claros, pero que representen lo que nosotros queremos decir. Y sentimos que muchas veces las opiniones de nuestros órganos nacionales son ignoradas totalmente. Por eso es que estamos, yo creo que en este momento, pidiendo más diálogo, pidiendo más comunicación para que podamos llegar a un acuerdo y poder trabajar de una manera más amable. Gracias.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Mexico.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta, por darme la palabra de nuevo sobre este tema. Solamente quería hacer un par de precisiones y enfatizar dos puntos que para mi delegación son importantes. En ningún momento estamos juzgando la importancia de los órganos ni la labor que están representando como consultativos de la convención y del trabajo que estamos haciendo. Estamos subrayando que en tanto partes en esta convención como también lo dijo el representante de Suiza, como stakeholders, al igual que los estados parte, la relación entre todos los actores relevantes tiene que ser con decoro y respeto y sin descalificaciones y sin información subjetiva o imparcial. Eso va a redundar en el diálogo, en el fomento de la confianza a la que también se refirió la delegación de India y otras delegaciones que me presidieron. Para que pueda establecerse el diálogo y la confianza, tenemos que mirarnos de igual a igual. Y en algunas ocasiones los informes que se presentan descalifican instituciones gubernamentales sin bases o con muy pocas bases, y eso puede lastimar el diálogo y eso puede lastimar la confianza que debemos tener y va a ir en demérito de la relación que se puede tener con los órganos consultivos y aparte con la implementación de la convención. Por eso, nuevamente, invitamos a que en todo momento se respeten no nada más las formas de procedimiento o las reglas de procedimiento formales, sino también las de educación y de diplomacia básica. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Naturellement, j'ai beaucoup apprécié la qualité de tous les rapports qui nous ont été faits. Je voudrais simplement exprimer un souhait de mon pays. En fait, nous souhaiterions quand même qu'il y ait une plus grande transparence dans le choix des experts, d'une façon générale, qui sont désignés par le Centre du patrimoine mondial.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Estonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Estonia doesn't feel that the state parties and advisory bodies should be on the different side of the fence. We have a common aim to protect the world heritage. The experience of Estonia from previous committee meetings has been partly disappointing that so many committee members have shown their distrust to the advisory bodies. Of course, always should be critical to the expert knowledge, as Michel Foucault has taught all of us, but still the expert knowledge requires more trust from us. The standards in the protection of the world heritage are equal for all the state parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. C'est la première fois que nous prenons la parole et nous voulons, à cette occasion, vous féliciter pour votre élection donc, à la présidence de ces travaux. Nous voulons également profiter pour remercier et féliciter la Fédération de Russie et la ville de Pétersbourg pour l'accueil chaleureux qu'elles nous ont réservé. Et nous nous félicitons du rapport élaboré jusque-là par l'ICOMOS et le soutenant dans leur laborieux travail. Il est temps toutefois, et à notre sens, comme l'ont souligné les honorables délégués du Mexique, de l'Inde et du Mali, de faire le point sur la conduite à tenir dans le futur, sur les méthodes, les moyens et les programmes, à la lumière surtout des changements et des transformations multiples que nous vivons à l'UNESCO. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now I give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you, Madam. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to your chairship and great Russian hospitality. In this point, I'd like to emphasize 2 points. That, of course, dialogue is so important between state members and advisory bodies. Without good communication, I believe it's much better. It's difficult for establish mutual trust. And second point, of course, transparency is the most important for credibility, to maintain credibility of this World Heritage Convention. And finally, I'd like to mention efficient use of limited resources. With very limited resources, we have to find out most efficient way of use our limited resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Serbia, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank you for your hospitality and the very good organization and the first working day, which began perfectly. But I would like to take the opportunity to support and once again to underline the thesis of India and somehow to underline the specificity of every region or country speaking in terms of the natural sites. So maybe some further consultation upon every issue that is offered to the advisory bodies should be taken in account. Furthermore than it was, because as the new member of the committee, Serbia already received various comments from various state parties that are not quite satisfied with the final remarks on the natural sites. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It seems to me once more we had very fruitful, let's say, discussion, and thank you very much for your intervention. And I am convinced more and more that finally we have to create such a working group which can start working after this session of the committee. And this decision we can propose now to the decision which we have to take, which is take notes, welcomes, maybe to invite, to create the open-ended group and to put here, or another decision like I proposed 12C. And before we go on, and I would like to invite the representative of ICROM to take the floor and to present your report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. This is the first time that I have the opportunity to address this meeting, and I would like to thank you and the Russian Federation for your great hospitality in organizing this event. I hope to return the hospitality in our headquarters in Rome in a very near future. This is also the first time that I have the opportunity to address this committee since taking over as Director General of ICROM in January. You all know very well my predecessor, Mr. Munir Bushnaki, who remains a member of our delegation in the capacity of Special Advisor. Everyone is aware of Munir's commitment and indeed ICROM's since the beginning of the convention to our role as advisory body to this committee, and I pledge ICROM's continued commitment to this role. Towards this end, I am happy to report that ICROM General Assembly in November of last year approved the new program area on using the World Heritage Convention to better convention practices worldwide. It is my belief that World Heritage should not be an end in itself, but rather a means for us to call a greater attention to the safeguarding of our common heritage. The work of this committee is therefore of the utmost importance, not just for the 936 properties on the list, but for the thousands of cultural and natural heritage sites in all countries of the world. Our report in document 5B lays out the work that we have carried out in the past year. I would like to highlight that we have been working with the other advisory bodies and the World Heritage Center with support from the government of Switzerland to create a new capacity building program for World Heritage. You will be hearing a report of this work in item 9B, and I do hope that you will look on this new program favorably. Thank you again, Madam Chairperson, for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much. Somebody wants to take the floor? I see nobody, and we have an observer wanted to take the floor, and I would like to ask you to identify yourself, please. And you have 2 minutes, sir.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель, за то, что мне предоставили слово. И
всем участникам спасибо за то, что включили наблюдателей в качестве участников. Я представляю коренные народы из России. И бы мне хотелось, раз идет разговор о совещательном и консультационном совете этой конвенции, здесь очень большой пробел в том смысле, что выпало из списка природных объектов такие территории, как священные территории, которые очень значимы для коренных народов всего мира. И это, возможно, единственная культура, которая напрямую связана с охранностью таких объектов, как священные природные объекты. И при этом, насколько я изучил документы конвенции, в этих списках очень мало вот таких объектов, имеющие значимость для всего мирового сообщества. И поэтому мне хотелось предложить вам, как участник конвенции, совещательный консультационный совет внести отдельную группу из коренных народов, которые бы присутствовали в постоянной основе. И это очень важно для правильной интерпретации значимости вот таких объектов, как священной территории. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Спасибо большое. Мне кажется, что it seems to me that if we create open-ended group, finally some observers can participate too. It will be up to members of the committee. And thank you very much for your intervention. So now I ask you to look to the draft decision of this. It contains in point 5 of this report, draft decision 36.5b. I would give the floor to the reporter, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just to announce the committee members that we have not received any amendment proposed for this decision so far.
I see that IUCN wants to take the floor. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Apologies, Chair. We don't have line of sight to indicate. I thought just having heard a very rich range of comments, and as part of the appeal was for dialogue and discussion, that it would be worth just noting a few points in response. And I think the first is to welcome the discussion. I think, in fact, the Indian ambassador put his finger on, I think, a key point about the nature of the relationship of the advisory bodies to states parties and also to the committee in reflecting, firstly, we have an advisory role, but also to what extent is the role one of providing assistance. And I think that is absolutely the issue here. The advisory role we perform is one which is requested to advise the committee, and it's defined by the operational guidelines. So we have a frame of reference that we work within for that role. But I think we completely recognize, and I think both in the input from ICOMOS and from IUCN and from ICCROM, what all of those interventions point to are a range of ways in which we think we should be working to try to address that point of assistance. The first is the reflection on the upstream process, which, as you've noted, Chair, will be discussed later in the meeting under item 12C, which is precisely about trying to address what is a current ineffective process, where essentially if there is no engagement early on in reflecting on nominations, and the only relationship with a nomination is when something is on the table for a very formal evaluation through the codified process of the operational guidelines, it is far too late to find a way to really have the sort of dialogue which is needed early on to look at questions of how a nomination could move forward. And I think that is absolutely an issue which we're already reflecting on, and I think item 12C will give the opportunity to reflect on that. I think secondly is the importance of us really addressing the point, and I emphasized it in our intervention for IUCN, about the regional nature of our organizations, and I emphasized how we are, as part of a major strategy of our work, trying to essentially establish regional presences, and you'll see within our delegation people from regions who are working day in and day out on World Heritage, and at the moment it is a work in progress. So I think ways in which you can help us to develop the capacities in the regions that you think are required would be highly welcomed. And lastly, I think in terms of the upstream process, we are already open always to provide advice, and we provide dozens of responses to requests for information and for input from states parties during every year, but it has we have to have the question asked early in the process to be able to respond. So please don't hesitate as early as you can to engage in the dialogue that I think is being reflected on. I think just otherwise, just two comments to emphasize, if I may, Chair, because there were so many points to respond to. I think in terms of transparency, this point is made, and we hear that word reflected on in many delegations, and it's a word that has been used in the last couple of sessions of the committee. We will, certainly in our presentations under item 8B, explain some of the changes in process and dialogue in the evaluation of nominations that we're engaged in. But I think what would be very helpful is to understand precisely the points of transparency that are not felt to be present, because it's a word that I think we would feel we are responding to, but if there are specific points which you feel are not adequately transparent, it will be helpful to isolate those, because in that way we can really understand what is behind the general concern and see to what extent that can be addressed. And lastly, I think just to respond to the intervention from the Indigenous people, to fully support the importance of the contribution of Indigenous people, and I think in particular the relationship that exists between nature and culture, which we deal with in two different advisory bodies within this convention in terms of advising on nominations, but actually has to be considered in one place to make any real sense of the interests that Indigenous peoples have in relation to the places that they are responsible for. I think in closing, Chair, we are extremely open and would welcome further dialogue. This is not a game of sides. It is about all of us working together to identify, support and conserve the world's most significant places, and to use that exercise to build capacities to really strengthen conservation for all cultural and natural heritage. And we would welcome further reflection on how to ensure we're fully aligned in that direction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for your reflection. It seems to me we have all ingredients together. Everybody are ready for dialogue and to improve relationship, to be more transparent. So what I propose maybe, yes, that we create small, let's say, not working group, maybe drafting group, who will propose amendment to this item concerning the working open-ended working group which will set up and which can start to work after this session.
Colombia wants to speak.
I would like not to do it on the spot now. You know, even you have good proposals. I propose that a country who was more active here, like India, Mexico, Switzerland, France, we'll sit, Colombia will sit together and elaborate and give it, and after lunch at 3 o'clock we quickly accept what you propose. Not to spend time now for literature work, I would say. Okay, agreed? Please, take the floor.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Efectivamente, ese era el tipo de intervención que queríamos hacer, consultado con el embajador de India, México, Suiza, Colombia, que lo que necesitamos es un grupo informal del comité que pueda reunirse y empezar a ver cuáles son las necesidades para comunicarlas con los órganos consultivos, de manera que lleguemos a algo más concreto. Gracias.
Absolutely. We don't have any to make any decision to set up this working group. Only, you know, give us the more or less agreed draft decision. Maybe you can consult even with advisory bodies how it will sound. So, and we are waiting your proposal at 3 p.m. So now I propose to go back to the point 36.5a.2, which I hope you received on paper, the proposed decision with amendments. Did you have time to look for this paper, which you received? So now I give the floor to the reporter. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. As you have just said, the Secretariat had distributed to all committee members the proposed amendments merged with the Mexican proposal and the Swiss proposal. So you will find, just for your information and clarification, all the text, the new text, it's in blue. The black text is the original text proposed from the Secretariat, and what is in red is the proposed deletion of text within the decision. So far we had advanced until paragraph 5, Madam Chairperson. You may, if the committee members accept, to continue beginning paragraph 6 of the draft decision. Okay, so I will read very slowly, paragraph by paragraph of the whole decision, and we will try to see whether there is agreement of these paragraphs. The draft decision 36.5a.2. The World Heritage Committee, which is the chapeau, number 1, having examined document WHC 12/36.com/582, document WHC 12/36.com/inf58.2, and document WHC 12/36.com/9A. No comments? Germany, please.
Thank you very much, Madame Rapporteur, and congratulations on your post also, and thanks for taking this very responsible task. I have one problem with this text, and I'm very open with you. I've spoken to Mexico and I've spoken to Switzerland. My original idea was, and I've prepared it in writing, to add a paragraph which would say that in the meantime, the Secretariat should act on the basis of the proposed strategy where it's feasible. On a preliminary basis, till we get the final strategy, then I can live with it. If we all are in the understanding that that will happen anyhow, and that would be all right, then I don't have to send it to you, but I have it here. If you want it, I would send it. I think it's for sure that we don't pretend the strategy has then been totally adopted, but at least we do not lose an entire year and take some responsibility of the committee only to the next year when something has been prepared by the center in long sessions, which partly is already usable. If that is the understanding, then this is fine with me. Thank you.
May I ask you if you can transmit to the Secretariat your proposed text? I think that we could look at it as new paragraph 8 of this draft decision, and which doesn't exclude the adoption of the rest of the paragraph, I think. Do you agree with this approach?
My idea was that if there's no protest against this reading of the draft decision by Mexico and Switzerland, then we do not need to put it in writing.
So we may have the reactions from the regional drafters, Mexico and Switzerland, on this proposal. Colombia, please.
And the rapporteur, simply if you could put it in the screen, they can put the paper in the screen. Thank you.
Just a clarification. What the delegate of Germany has just said is that she can go along the text proposed with amendments in the understanding that the World Heritage Center will start applying the strategy as far as it is possible, so there is no blocking on the progress on this regard. Could I have the reactions from Switzerland or Mexico on this proposal? Switzerland?
Merci Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente n'est pas là, mais voilà. Vous me connaissez, je suis pour aller vite. Et je comprends tout à fait les soucis de ma collègue allemande. D'un autre côté, j'ai un problème. Je suis également contre mettre la charrue avant les bœufs. Or, bien que toutes les délégations ont eu je crois, le sentiment que la stratégie allait dans le bon sens, je ne crois pas qu'on puisse couper l'herbe sous les pieds du groupe de travail chargé d'examiner justement les recommandations de l'audit interne et les implications de pacte avant que celui-ci n'ait fait son travail. Or, son travail est un travail qu'il doit remettre ensuite à la prochaine Assemblée générale. Donc, j'ai quelques peines à dire, d'un côté, on n'accepte pas la stratégie pour l'instant, on en prend simplement note, ce qui est la proposition du Mexique et de la Suisse, et de l'autre côté dire « oui, mais ça ne fait rien, on prend note et puis on va de l'avant ». Il y a là, dans la logique, quelque chose qui me gêne. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. Somebody else wants to take the floor? Mexico, please.
Gracias, señora presidenta. La razón por la que propusimos esta enmienda es precisamente porque pensábamos que para poder adoptar la estrategia esta tendría que incluir algunos elementos que todavía no se han dado. En principio, nosotros estamos de acuerdo con la idea detrás de la propuesta de Alemania, que es no impedir el progreso de las partes que ya se pudieran implementar. Sin embargo, si no estamos, o sea, también comparto la posición de Suiza, si no estamos adoptando la decisión, si no estamos adoptando la implementación, ¿cómo se va a poder implementar en el futuro? Pero por otra parte, también quisiera llamar la atención al hecho de que yo pensé que la propuesta de Alemania se iba a presentar como una parte esencial o adicional a esta decisión, como sugirió la relatora, tal vez como un nuevo párrafo en el que todos adoptáramos esa decisión. Entonces, en ese sentido, yo sí invitaría respetuosamente a Alemania a presentar la propuesta de texto para poder ver en su conjunto cómo juega con todos los demás elementos y poder ver si en efecto hay una contradicción, como lo está apuntando Suiza y que parece ser que así es, o si no hay una contradicción para todos los demás miembros y entonces tomar una decisión en ese sentido. Señora Presidenta, gracias.
Thank you very much. Does it mean that we follow working on the screen, or maybe you three will meet and propose agreed, resolution? Because I don't see any other country who has some other amendments.
The rapporteur will go through
Yes.
the petition.
Okay. Reporter, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We had started revising paragraph by paragraph again. Now the delegations had the opportunity to look the entire proposal. So if you agree, Madam Chairperson, we could go again on this approach and taking into board the proposal of Germany probably as new paragraph 8. So we had so far advanced on to paragraph 1, Madam Chairperson. want me to continue? Okay. Paragraph 2. Recalling decisions 34-5A and decision 35-5A respectively.
So can we adopt this point second? Item. Point second. Adopted. Okay, go on.
Paragraph 3. Also recalling Resolution 18-GA8 adopted by the 18th General Assembly of States Parties to the Convention, by which the recommendations on the Partnership for Conservation Initiative were endorsed. In here, Madam Chairperson, I have to point to you a proposal from the Secretariat to make clearer the text in the sense to include after recommendations of the external auditor.
So are there any objections or other formulations? I see none, so point 3 is adopted.
Paragraph 4. Considering that the open-ended working group in charge of producing an implementation plan for the recommendation of the external auditor will be meeting prior to the 37th session of the committee to discuss the recommendations of the PACT initiative.
Do you have any amendments or changes to this paragraph? No. I see none, so adopted.
Paragraph 5. Mindful that the UNESCO Partnership Policy Framework will be presented for consideration to the 190th Executive Board session.
Switzerland.
I see Switzerland. Please take the floor.
Excusez-moi, Madame la Présidente, mais c'est avant tout une question de français. Je ne sais pas ce que recouvrent les termes anglais de Partnership Policy Framework, mais les termes tels qu'il a été traduit par cadre politique me posent un petit problème. Je propose que l'on reprenne en quelque sorte les termes qui sont prévus dans le rapport et que l'on parle à la place de cadre politique, le cadre directeur pour des partenariats stratégiques de l'UNESCO. Je crois que c'est ça les termes qui sont utilisés et ça me semble beaucoup plus clair que d'ajouter ce terme politique qui peut avoir des significations diverses dans divers langages. Merci Madame la Présidente. Je répète peut-être pour Madame le rapporteur, conscient que le cadre directeur pour les partenariats stratégiques de l'UNESCO, etc. Merci.
Thank you very much. I see Serbia wants to take the floor. Please, floor is yours.
Nous nous souscrivons, merci Madame la Présidente, nous souscrivons à ce que la Suisse vient de dire. Je pense que politique n'est pas acceptable dans ce texte. Merci.
Thank you very much. Reporter, please take the floor.
Pour le paragraphe 5, en français au moins, ça c'est lire conscient que le cadre directeur pour les partenariats stratégiques de l'UNESCO sera présenté pour examen à la 190e session du Conseil exécutif.
So I suppose that we can adopt this paragraph.
Yes.
Adopted. So now we move on to the paragraph 6. Please take the...
Okay. It says, takes note of the proposed strategy to improve the development of partnerships for World Heritage with the private sector, their implementation and their evaluation through adequate tools and guidelines as contained in document WHC 12/36.com/58.2.
Are there any objections?
Yes, please.
an objection, Madam Chair, but I would give my how would I say, my agreement to this paragraph in the understanding that we will have a paragraph 8.
Okay. And point 8, proposed by Switzerland, you mean?
Point 8 is the new point with the German amendment saying that in the sorry.
It will be 9.
9, sorry.
It will be 9.
Yeah.
And did you give your amendments
yes,
to?
we sent it a while ago. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so first, so we move to the point 7, because if this 9 and point 6 are linked, so let's go to the point 7. Please take the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. Paragraph 7 so far, it reads, request the World Heritage Center to present at its 37th session a revised pact initiative strategy that takes into account A, the plan of action proposed by the open-ended working group on the recommendations of the external auditor concerning PACT. B, the decision adopted during the 190th Executive Board session regarding the organization's partnership policy framework. And C, the debates of the 36th session of the committee. May I say also, Madam Chairperson, that we will make the amendments in the French version according to what we approve in paragraph 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So do you have any changes to this point? I see none, so adopted. So now we move on to the point 8. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. New paragraph 8 proposed by Switzerland. Requests the World Heritage Center to continue to keep it informed with regard to the partnerships in an analytical manner.
Are there any changes or amendments? I see none, so adopted. Now, Mexico, you have some, yes, please take the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. No soy hablante nativa del inglés. El inglés no es mi idioma materno, pero creo que hay una letra que falta en la palabra partnerships.
We'll do that. Okay.
Thank you very much, but all the text will be revised. It was very quickly prepared, as I understand. So now we move on to the point 9, proposed by Germany. Reporter, please take the floor.
I will ask your indulgence, Madam Chairperson. The typists are just now working on the text proposed by Germany. Can we wait a couple of seconds?
Excuse me.
Germany. We don't have it,
Germany, please read it. To whom you give it?
We send it electronically after Switzerland asked us to do that.
Okay, so please read it.
So the reading is in English. In the meantime, asks the center to start implementing the feasible provisions on a preliminary basis until the 37th session. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please, members of the committee, do you have any comments on this? Truly say I don't understand what you propose. What we speak there that the committee has to stop working, and why it's necessary to put this item? what it gives, what added value to this
It
point.
allows the center to go ahead and not wait till June 2013 with these things that we all think are reasonable.
They are working all the time, and it seems to me that this resolution doesn't stop them for their routine and day-to-day work. So please, members of the committee, express your opinion. Switzerland, please take the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Écoutez, je dois dire, je partage votre point de vue. Le centre travaille, il travaille au jour le jour. Il y a un groupe de travail qui a été chargé d'examiner à la demande de l'Assemblée générale et pour l'Assemblée générale la mise en œuvre des recommandations de l'audit externe, oui, et la mise en œuvre de la stratégie du pacte. Je pense qu'on ne peut pas mettre la charrue avant les bœufs. Je regrette infiniment de le dire ainsi, mais nous sommes sous la direction, en quelque sorte, de l'Assemblée générale. C'est ainsi que moi je lis la chose. Et comme vous l'avez dit, Madame la Présidente, le centre, avec toute sa sagesse, mettra en œuvre ce que l'on peut mettre en œuvre, mais pas plus. Voilà, Madame la Présidente, ce que j'avais à dire. Je suis donc contre l'ajout de ce paragraphe. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. Who else wants to express their opinion? Colombia, please.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Efectivamente, queremos apoyar lo que acaba de decir Suiza, porque es que se puede crear un conflicto si empezamos para empezar, el centro sigue trabajando, las cosas se siguen determinando y se siguen implementando, pero si empezamos además a decir que empecemos un proceso, pero que estudiemos otro hasta el 2013, en el 2013 paramos el que llevamos y empezamos otro, es sumamente confuso. Yo creo que el párrafo 9 lo único que hace es confundir este draft que está quedando muy claro. Gracias.
Germany, maybe you will take off your proposal?
Madam Chair, I regret that I will not take off my proposal out of one simple reason. Switzerland is now saying for sure the center can go ahead with this work on improving where possible and necessary. You remember at the beginning of this session I said I will not come up with a new paragraph if it's not necessary. If we are all in the understanding that the center can go ahead with what is reasonable, and then Switzerland opposed this. That is why I come on with this now, and I would like the center to get the instructions from the committee on not work on its own.
I will give you the floor now.
Just in the free. So if this is the understanding that they can go ahead, then I would like, please, Switzerland, to reiterate that, but I would like to make the point that it's the contrary of what they said in the beginning when I offered not to make this point if this is the common understanding. And I think that we had agreement on this issue with other parties, which was worked out. The other thing is we are a convention, which membership in the convention, so it's the convention that decides, and this committee, and I again would like to see progress and not wait for an entire more year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, but it seems to me, with your permission, I will give the floor to the World Heritage Center to understand how they see the situation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to draw the attention of the distinguished delegates of the committee to paragraph 5 of this working document, 36.5a.2, where we have extracted the decision of the 18th General Assembly and to which the distinguished ambassador of Switzerland was referring. And that resolution of the General Assembly clearly invites UNESCO and the World Heritage Center to implement the recommendations of the external auditor concerning PACT, and notably to harmonize PACT with UNESCO's development of partnership strategies. So that mandate exists, and we are in the process of already implementing the recommendations because we have that mandate. And I don't think, Madam Chair, that we will be constrained in any way by the adoption of the current decision that is being proposed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I see Mexico wants to take the floor. Please, floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Realmente mi pregunta ha quedado parcialmente contestada, pero de todas maneras, por claridad, quería preguntar a la Secretaría si la propuesta que hacía México obstaculiza el trabajo o impide el progreso durante un año, tal como es la preocupación de Alemania, porque la razón por la que está presentando esto a Alemania es porque a su modo de ver, y perdón por hablar en voz, o tomar la voz de otra delegación, pero quisiera claridad en este punto. A modo de ver de Alemania, existe un obstáculo para la labor del centro, y si la Secretaría nos explica esta situación, podemos decidir si es necesario o no hacer este párrafo y esta explicación. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much. I see Mali wants to speak. Please take the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Suite à cette discussion intéressante, je réitère votre proposition, Madame la Présidente, qui consiste à donner le temps aux différentes parties concernées, tous les États parties qui viennent d'intervenir, pour se retrouver et nous faire une proposition au cours de la pause déjeuner. Ça nous permettra d'avancer énormément. Merci.
Thank you very much, but it seems to me that we just near to adopt the whole decision. And before I will give the floor to the World Heritage Center, Mr. Rao, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I clarified, on the basis of the General Assembly's resolution, we are already implementing the recommendations made by the external auditor on the evaluation of the PACT strategy, and we are already harmonizing our approach with the UNESCO's partnership strategy, which is under consideration. Now, having said that, what is being proposed by Mexico in paragraph 7 of the revised draft decision is merely calling for revising the strategy that we have now presented in the document. Now, we will certainly revise this strategy on the basis of your suggestions that you have made now, and we will present a revised strategy next year. But that will not in any way impede us or hold us from implementing the resolution of the General Assembly. So, Madam Chair, what I wish to say is that we will not be constrained in any way by implementing this decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and if this explanation will satisfy Germany and clarify for everybody how this work will be done, so I suppose that we can return to the point 6 or 5? 7. Oh, pardon, 7. No, not 6. Point 6.
If Germany agrees.
If Germany agrees now. So please, take the floor.
Okay, paragraph 6, it says, takes note of the proposed strategy to improve the development of partnerships for World Heritage with the private sector, their implementation and their evaluation through adequate tools and guidelines as contained in document WHC 12/36com/582.
So, do you have any objections? I see none, so adopted. So now, after we adopted paragraph by paragraph, so we have to adopt the whole draft, the whole decision. Once more, do you have any objections or amendments? I see none. So, may I consider that we approve the decision of 36.5a.2 as amended? Switzerland, please, take the floor.
Excusez-moi, mais donc le paragraphe 9 tombe, on est bien d'accord?
No, without point 9.
Without point 9?
Without point 9.
Merci.
Yes. So, adopted as amended, without point 9. So, Dear colleagues, because we have some announcement before we leave for lunch, I would like to give the floor to the State Minister of Germany, who has to leave, unfortunately, St. Petersburg, and she has some very important announcement. Please, Madam, floor is yours.
Madam Chair, dear Eleonora, dear colleagues, you said it. Unfortunately, I have to leave St. Petersburg, but I would like to make a proposition before I will go. As the head of the German delegation, it's at first a great honor for us to take the floor as a new member of the World Heritage Committee. And I think I'm not the last one which would like to thank the Russian Federation and you, Madam Chair, for the brilliant organization and the hospitality. It's a pleasure to attend the meeting in this wonderful palace and in this amazing city of St. Petersburg. But let me at first say one commitment of the new member after 14 years. We are a new member of the World Heritage Committee. My delegation and I are devoted to work in partnership with our colleagues of the committee and its outstanding advisory bodies for the protection and conservation of the listed and the potential World Heritage sites all over the world. And we offer to share our experiences, especially with regard to the involvement of local communities, as well as to international capacity building initiatives on university level and national investment programs. We are happy that this cooperation has borne fruit for some of our partner countries. And as you know, the Federal Republic of Germany has ratified the convention 36 years ago. That's why I would like to make you a proposition. Therefore, the Federal Republic of Germany would desire to invite you in 2015 before our membership comes to an end. It would be a great honor for us to be the host of the World Heritage Committee in Berlin, in Germany, and I think this invitation is really a good look in the future of the World Heritage Committee. Thank you for attention.
Cornelia, thank you very much for your generous proposal. And we take note, and you know that you have to submit the written, application for this, and I would thank you very much for this, and I suppose that member states can. Thank you. Thank you very much once more. So, and I would apologize, but from 3 to 6 p.m. I would ask the representative of South Africa to replace me. Only this day I need to be out. And our colleague has some announcement too.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. At lunchtime, we would like to invite all journalists for the press conference in room 16 starting at 1 o'clock. The African World Heritage Fund, the Arab Regional Center for World Heritage and the Nordic World Heritage Foundation will welcome you to the opening of the exhibition, The Heritage of Caravans and Those. So it will be very interesting from 2 to 3, coffee and tea served. And the third point I would like to make is the outcomes of the Heritage Impact Assessment for Mapungubwe in South Africa will take place from 1 to 3 in the library. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So, no other announcement, amendments? I see none, so I declare this session closed. At 3 o'clock sharp, we are waiting for you here.